You know what is one of the best things about being back in the Netherlands? Is having access to stroopwafels literally all the time. Oh, zo lekker. When we lived in Amsterdam, we lived really, really close to the Oude Kerkmarkt. And there you can get fresh stroopwafels. And they're warm, and the syrup comes out, oh my God. And now that we've moved to The Hague, I don't know where to get fresh stroopwafels. So if anyone is watching, let me know in the comments below, where can I get really good, delicious, fresh stroopwafels? Now, before we get started in today's video, I just wanted to make a very, very quick announcement. I have finally started a Patreon page. There's no obligation to join. I have had a few people ask me if I have one, and I have only just set it up now. My goal is to try and spend more time doing YouTube and justify upgrading some equipment and spending more time researching topics and talking to people, and I have big ideas for the channel, so I would love to be able to do that and invest the time into it. Please feel free to join me on Patreon. If not, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to continue making videos because I love doing it. And that being said, let's jump into today's video. Now, today's video is about this little word that I have talked about before in one of my previous videos of things that I hate about the Dutch language, because there are some really confusing things that don't always make sense as an English speaker. So this little word seems to join itself to lots of other words and pop up here and there, and I never really fully understood the grammar rules about it, hence why it was in that video. So now I want to try and do my best to explain why, when, and how we use the word er in the Dutch language. Let me do my best. Ermee, ernaar, eraan, ernaartoe. So after doing a little bit of research, what I have found is that there are two types of er, and that's probably why it pops up in random occasions, because there's actually two versions of it. There's two reasons why you would use er. The first one is when you follow it with is of zijn. So er is, er zijn. This er means a place, a location. There is, there are. Here is, here are. So er replaces place. The second version of er is when you join it with a preposition. This er replaces a part of the sentence that you're talking about. So er with a preposition is the er that you use when you're replacing part of the sentence. If this sounds confusing, I'm going to give you examples. So let's go back to the first version of er, when it's replacing a place. Er zijn veel bomen. And er is replacing here. Op deze plek. So here, there's heaps of trees. In this spot. Here. Er zijn veel bomen. Op zaterdag is er niemand. The store's closed. There's no one there. There. Op zaterdag is er niemand. So there is a place. On Saturday, there is no one there. You can kind of get a little obtuse about this too. It doesn't need to be a physical location, if that makes sense. So in the example, er is veel meer CO2 in de lucht. There's more carbon dioxide in the air. So we're still talking about a place because we're talking about in the air, and that is a location. So er is, er, a place. Now the second version of er, and the one that I probably find a little bit more confusing, is when you're joining it with a preposition and replacing a part of the sentence. Again, I'm going to go through some examples so that you can kind of see the patterns of when to use it. Okay. Let's take a really basic sentence structure. Ik kijk naar de berg. So we're going to replace part of this sentence. We're going to replace de berg. The berg becomes hem. The noun becomes hem. Ik kijk naar hem. Then what you want to do is actually reverse the order. Ik kijk naar. So the hem becomes er. That's what we're replacing. So the berg becomes hem, becomes er. Once it becomes er, you need to change the order. Ik kijk naar. Let's do another one. Ik zie de berg. So this will be an example of when not to use er. Ik zie de berg. The berg, if you want to replace the subject, becomes hem. Ik zie hem. Because there's no preposition, I'm not looking to it, naar, op, aan, those sorts of words. They're not in their sentence. We don't change hem to er. We only need to replace it if there's a preposition. The sentence stays, ik zie hem. Of, ik zie de berg. Now let's start involving some people. We'll make the sentence a little more complicated. Ze houdt van Japanse muziek. So ze is a person. She loves Japanese music. Japanse muziek is the thing that we're going to replace. So Japanse muziek becomes het. Ze houdt van het. The het becomes er. And once it becomes er, you need to swap the order again. There is a preposition, van. So then the sentence becomes, ze houdt van. This is how I feel when I'm making these videos. Ze houdt ervan. We've replaced a part of the sentence and there was a preposition, so the order needed to be changed. Now let's say that she doesn't love Japanese music, but she loves a person. Ze houdt van Jan. She loves Jan. Jan becomes hem. Ze houdt van hem. Now the trick here is, yes, there's a preposition. So yes, it would need to become er and we would need to swap the order. But this is another example of when we don't replace with er. People do not become er. Things become er and places become er. But never does a person become er. Er combines itself with a lot of different prepositions. So I'm going to list the prepositions that it actually joins to. Met, na, tot, and prepositions of position and movement. Er plus met equals ermee. Ze brengt het ermee. She's bringing it with her. Er and tot turns into ertoe. So when it's a movement, you say er plus na equals er naartoe of erheen. And I never know when to use er naartoe of erheen. So there's another rule that I don't fully understand. Er plus van. Er van equals er vandaan. Ze komt er vandaan. Er plus uit also equals er vandaan. So examples of when the prepositions are expressing movement is a sentence like ze loopt naar de winkel. Ze loopt naar de winkel. She's walking to the shops. The shops, we're going to change this part of the sentence to er. And because there's a preposition, naar, we change the order. Ze loopt er naar. And as we said before, er plus naar equals naartoe. Ze loopt er naartoe. She's walking to the shops. Ze loopt er naartoe. It only changes to er naartoe if the action is a movement. So walking is a movement. This second example, ze kijkt naar de winkel. We change the winkel to er. The sentence has a preposition, naar. So we swap the order. But this naar doesn't become naartoe because looking, kijken, is not a movement. It's an action. It's still an action, but it's not a movement. So, ze kijkt ernaar. Finished. Done. Ze kijkt ernaar. I know there can also be a little bit of confusion when it comes to whether or not to use daar. Daar of er. As far as I can tell, daar is more emphasis and it's more likely to be used when you're talking about a specific place, an actual spot. Sometimes I still have confusion whether or not to use daar of er. I have a feeling that daar is more direct, but maybe that's just because it sounds more direct, whereas er is a bit looser. I don't know if there's a specific rule or again, it's more of a feeling. I feel like some of these things in the Dutch language just come with a lot of listening and a lot of using and trial and error. If anyone has a specific rule for using daar and er, please let me know what that is in the comments below. I have tried to unpack this really crazy, confusing word that I have had trouble with. If you're a native Dutch speaker and you have simpler rules or examples or more ways in which I can better unpack the Dutch language, let me know what they are. I love reading through the comments and I've learned so much from all of you guys as well. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I will see you in the next video. Bye.